These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
In a galaxy far, far away. Oh dear, I was never ever a Star Trek fan. Do you know that, Matt? I've never seen a full episode or a full film.
Really?
Yeah, and do you know why? It's ridiculous. It's because when I was a kid, my mate Sam told me that you can only ever like Star Wars or Star Trek, not both. And that carried on so long that I just kept it with me.
And it's one of those sort of dogmas that you never questioned until it was too late.
Yeah, well, I always thought it was really silly because whenever I saw clips of, the Klingons or whatever, I just thought I just thought it's not cool. Star Wars is cool.
Star Wars is cool. I would honestly say early Star Trek, William Shatner Star Trek, is brilliant.
Really? Well, maybe I'll have to go back.
It's genuinely brilliant. And then the first Star Wars film is a bit lame, but Wrath of Khan is an amazing film. It's really brilliant, as is number 4 is really good.
Did you mean the first Star Trek film is a bit lame?
Sorry.
Because you said Star Wars.
Did he say it? So I get the two.
So I'm going to have to pull you up on
that.
Yeah,
you are. Sorry. Yes, the first Star Trek film.
You were just testing if I'm listening, which I am, Matt. So, Matt, how are you? Are you okay?
I'm good.
What's going on in your galaxy?
What's going on in my galaxy is that I thought it would be funny to do that Star Trek quote because there's quite a lot going on in it. It says everything about how society's changed. You might notice the sort of Trekkie amongst our listeners, and I would imagine there's quite a few because obviously being into space and stuff is very much a kind of Trekkie thing.
Where are Trekkies at?
Get this, the person that played Scotty got an honorary doctorate because loads of people said that they went into engineering because of Scotty from Star Trek. So they gave him an honorary doctorate. Just for an example. But yeah, so it used to say where no man has gone before, where of course it's they changed it to no one has gone before.
Very PC.
It's one of those things. I know a lot of people moan about this one, but it's not that big a deal, is it? To just be a bit more,
it's not going to upset
anyone. To be a bit more inclusive. Everyone just calm down and
chill out.
Just chillax. So yeah, this is like the next generation version, read out by Patrick Stewart, of course, who's a friend of our old guest Brian Blessed.
The Interplanetary Podcast, putting the ace back into space.
Absolutely.
And of course, my favourite thing is the fact that they split the infinitive. So the infinitive of a verb, Jamie, I'm sure you know, is the verb to go. That is the infinitive of that. So I go, you go. But the verb is to go, and that's the infinitive of that verb. To split it is to put a word in the middle of that infinitive. So to boldly go, you've split the infinitive. And for some people, that's a grammatical error. But for me, now, what do you reckon? Do you reckon out of these 3 sentences that they mean different things? Okay, so you've got...
Go on then.
To go boldly, boldly to go, and to boldly go. They all mean subtly different things, don't they?
That's true.
So I think
that's very true.
So I think it's totally valid to split the infinitive. But Douglas Adams in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy made a joke about bold adventurers who dared to boldly split infinitives that no man had split before. And Lawrence M. Krauss had described it as one of the top 10 worst errors in the Star Trek universe, as he went through all the different errors of science in Star Trek, and he put that in the top 10, which I think is a bit childish.
I like that, but I tell you what, Matt, you can tell you're a teacher.
Why?
Definitely tell you're a teacher. No, just the way you. I mean, I'm complimenting.
Oh,
you.
Okay, thanks.
It's great. I felt like you're a student there. Yeah.
Well,
Franklin, you're late.
We're all
that kind of.
We're
thing.
all students in life, aren't we? Really.
We're all students. Isn't that the definition of intelligent, Matt? intelligence that you just realise how much you don't know.
Yeah, well,
That's me every day. So therefore, I mean, I'm very intelligent.
we should all try and be teachers. That's why Richard Feynman's my absolute hero. That's it.
There we go. There we go. So, 50 years ago on Saturday, August the 4th,
Is it another Apollo thing?
1969, Mariner 7.
Ooh.
First photograph of Phobos from space.
There was a lot going on, wasn't there, in the late 60s in space?
Really was. What a time that
Yeah,
was.
That must have been quite
I'd love
cool.
to have been hanging around in the late 60s.
Yeah. It was only another couple of years until I was born, Jamie.
Oh my God, you're so old.
I know. Isn't that gutting? Oh, space news, Jamie. Good one, good one. Chris Lamore, our friend
yes.
from Orbex. I hope he's listening to this episode. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
The Scottish Spaceport has got the go-ahead from locals, which of course is huge that the locals have
Absolutely
not objected
excellent.
to it. So yes, the Space Hub Sutherland gets the go-ahead from Melnus Crofters Estate and the Highland and Islands Enterprise for a 75-year lease on the land. And Chris Lamore described this as a very welcome positive step forward. Orbex's interactions with the local community in Tongue, Talmeen and Melnus have been overwhelmingly positive, and we're pleased that this strong long-term agreement is now in place. The launch capability will be a first in continental Europe, enlarging the UK's share of the global space economy.
I think it's excellent news. Well done, everyone. I mean, that's just so exciting, isn't it? And
That's
they thought
really,
it
really
might
exciting.
happen, but they weren't being too cocky. And now it's happened.
It's happened. So that's one more step.
There we go. And God knows at the moment we need some positive news about our economy. God damn.
Well, don't worry about it, Jamie. All the time the pound's really low. It makes investment easier for foreign countries, doesn't it? There we go. Don't worry about it too much, Jamie. No one knows. It's all a storm in a teacup, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Everyone, all of our British listeners, which is about a third of you, just calm down, everyone. This is what I'm saying. Don't worry. It'll be fine. It's all going to be fine. We've been
all right
through
for
worse.
billionaires like you, Matt. What about the poor people like us? Yeah, you're the 1%.
If only, Jamie, if only.
If there's a no deal, you'll just be sitting there still with your silver spoon in your china teacup.
If I was a billionaire, Jamie, I would have set up a space society.
That's true,
or pumped loads of money into the British Interplanetary Society. And changed its name to the Matt Russell's British Interplanetary Society.
Yeah, exactly. I take it all back.
Yeah.
So what's going on with Ariane 6?
Ariane 6, the mobile gantry that I saw last year, has made its first move. It's been rolling around to test it. And just so you realise how ridiculous that is, it's 90 metres high as a metallic structure, and it weighs the same as the Eiffel Tower. So it's like having the Eiffel Tower on rollers, basically. So it is a big old thing. And yes, that sort of rolls out to the launch pad, and then when it rolls back without the rocket that was inside, and off you go.
That is heavy. That is heavy.
So it's done a 97-metre rollout test, which is very, very exciting. So Ariane 6, well on the way to seeing a launch soon, hopefully next year. And then Cheops, the characterising exoplanet satellite, at the same time has passed all its testing, presumably at STEC and various places like that. And that's now being packaged up to be sent out to French Guiana, Kourou, to be launched from the spaceport.
Ooh la la! Your second home.
My second home, yeah. I like to call it my second home.
Yeah,
and
big time.
At the same time, and when I was in my second home, of course, I saw them fueling up Bepi Colombo. They were fueling it up with just your standard propellant, hydrazine or something for the thrusters.
Your standard Calagas.
Yeah, definitely not your Calagas, not your Orbex Calagas. No, the Mars 2020 rover is having its plutonium isotope put into its RTG, the MMRTGs.
I must get mine fixed.
if you remember back to the movie The Martian, it's the thing that he digs up from the sand and has with him in the keeping him warm in the rover. Remember that?
Matt Damon.
I love that. I love that bit in that film.
That's so fun.
Simply genius.
Really good.
A really big news this week, though, was Collins Aerospace. Nothing to do with Michael Collins, by the way. There's quite a few Collins Aerospaces that are based in Britain as well, I noticed. They're dotted around Britain. Yeah, a lot of it's military hardware sort of stuff. But we've talked about them and ILC Dover quite a few times when we went through our Spacesuits special.
We did.
They've basically unveiled that the fact that they were working on the next generation of spacesuit together, and so in some ways this kind of means that we're closer to going to the moon than everyone thought, because it was like that was one of the big kind of blocks was, oh God, we haven't even got any spacesuits for 2024. But it turns out that these two companies have been working on it. And
that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, sort of talk about lucky. So they revealed that at some big event on Capitol Hill last week, and yeah, so they've been curing a few problems with the old spacesuits, because they built the old spacesuits, by the way. But both these companies were involved in the current.
When are they sending me mine?
I think I do
with my Cannibal Corpse patch on the back.
I think that is coming soon.
It's coming, is it? It's in the post.
It's in the post, yeah.
Okay.
But you do need to put your £2.5 million down payment on it. You did remember that.
Yeah, I'm good for it.
Okay.
I'm good for it.
Okay, so you're just putting it on a tab?
Stick it on my tab.
Just stick it on my tab.
Yeah, they'll be fine with that.
It's got carbon dioxide removal technology, a breakthrough technology, they reckon. So that significantly reduces crew maintenance time. It's much better than the old one.
I'll tell you what else it's got, Matt. Improved mobility joints and a ambulatory.
I think ambulatory, from the Latin ambulatus, to walk.
It's got improved mobility joints and an ambulatory lower torso that will allow astronauts to traverse hazardous terrain, perform complex tasks, and closely examine, handle, and collect geological samples from the surface. This is important because, as we know in the past, Matt, so many astronauts have said how difficult and how tiring it can be performing the simplest tasks. So this is good news.
This I think is the really big one, actually. An upper torso structural component with advanced sizing features to enable a large anthropometric range of astronauts. Now, what that really means is spacesuits are no longer sexist, I guess.
Got it.
So the upper torso can be resized quickly without tools. So in other words, we are in that same situation. Remember a few weeks ago when they cancelled that spacewalk featuring Anne McClain and Christina Cook?
Yes, I remember.
And that really all came down to the fact that spacesuits really back in the 70s were sexist, really. You couldn't really get around it. But that, you know, they were designed at a time when most astronauts were male.
Exactly.
And what's incredible about that, you think, God, well, surely they've built better ones since. Well, no. The spacesuits that they're using at the moment were designed in 1974, flown first in 1981. They built 18 of them, and 11 of those original 18 are still the ones being used.
That's just insane to me.
Yeah, so you know, so those spacesuits they just keep using the same ones over and over and over and over again, with a bit of servicing every now and then. They every 6 years they get serviced, or every 25 EVAs. So it's an amazing thing. So yeah, these are the first new spacesuits for a very long time.
Well, it's about time people recognised boobs. Is what I'm saying.
Well, and just smaller physiques and smaller frames, maybe. But it's
for me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
in case I'm an astronaut,
this won't disadvantage people like you, Jamie.
Could I still wear my Cuban heels in a astronaut suit?
Snake hip snake hip hobbits. It doesn't disadvantage. Am I going to?
dear,
Am I
right.
being too nasty now?
Yes, this is definitely bullying.
It is, isn't it? Sorry, Jamie.
Yeah, that's okay.
Don't everyone listening. Don't bully your work colleagues, please. Thank you.
Exactly, especially not on a Friday.
No.
So I tell you what else they've got, Matt. Significantly more efficient motors and electronics that reduce size and weight and enable incorporation of additional avionics and data capabilities into the suit, which is all good news, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course things like HD video recording and communications and head-up displays, all those sort of things, I think, are all in there as well. So, but it is very, very impressive. These two companies are very impressive, full of very hard-working, forward-thinking people, and I have to say it's deeply impressive what they've done. We should be applauding both those companies for just cracking on and solving problems.
I think it's fantastic.
Astronomers, Jamie, have discovered a 3-planet solar system relatively close to Earth.
Ooh.
So it's another one that orbits a M dwarf host, in other words, a red dwarf star, 73 light years from Earth. So pretty goddamn close, isn't it?
That really is close.
Yeah, it contains a super Earth planet, 1.2 times the size of the Earth, and a couple of sub-Neptune sized planets. That's sort of 2.5 roughly. Well, 2.4 and 2.3 times the radius of the Earth, these other two planets. But they are super, super close to their parent star. So the orbit of the super Earth only takes 3.5 days. And the others 5 days, and one 11 days.
So do we think they're quite hot places then?
Yeah. So remember it's a red dwarf star, so it's pretty cool. But yes, that is probably too hot for life, really. But it's a gift, this particular solar system, because it allows the detection of transiting timing variations. So they'll be able to get the exact mass and measurement and dynamic studies of those particular planets as they go round. So they'll be able to really, really hone in on quite a lot of detail on them. They'll be able to actually look at the atmospheres of some of these planets because it's near enough via transmission spectroscopy. And they'll be looking out for planets further out that might be in the habitable zone. And,
there we go.
And because the star is now quite quiet, it's quite a calm star, it could be really good news. So it's a really, really interesting new solar system that they found, and that was a paper that was in Nature this week.
Isn't Calm Star your alt folk duo?
Yeah, Calm Star would be great. Actually, it's quite funny. At work, they've come up with a name for my band called the Matt Russell Intensity. And the third album was going to be called I Know How You Should Be Living Your Life.
I really like it.
Yeah. That
is brilliant.
Yeah, the follow-up album to that was Summer Live, Autumn Love. Which has been making me chuckle all week, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
That's good.
I
can't match that.
No, you can't match that. So, really big news about solar sailing, Jamie, this week.
Massive news.
Yes. We didn't really mention it, did we, last week? But yeah, the Planetary Society solar sail actually unfurled last week, and we could have mentioned it, but big whoop. But this is pretty impressive, the next bit. So yeah, the Planetary Society announced that they were going to do something major this week.
Well, it's raised its apogee.
Yeah, it's raised its orbit
by 2 kilometres.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. By light alone, by the momentum of photons alone.
I just love it.
Its orbit has been raised by 2 kilometres. That's actually incredible, isn't it? So it's the first ever demonstration of light sails actually being used for orbital mechanics.
Well, maybe this kind of light sail is going to ping its way across to check out other solar systems in our galaxy. Just saying.
Well, yeah, I think you could only if you wanted to do that in a human lifespan, it would have to be assisted by lasers. See, that's the thing.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I've got them.
if you got the lasers, you got one of those.
I've got the lasers.
You got one of those laser
I've got
pointers.
the flux capacitors.
I mean, I think.
What more do you need?
But I think it is really good for sort of zipping around the solar system and looking at things. You can get to pretty good speeds just from the light alone. And of course, we there's variations on just solar sailing. There was the one that we had Robert Zubrin on the show talking about his version of it.
Zoobs, yeah, we did.
So there's quite a lot of different ways of doing this, but this is the first time it's really been demonstrated. So well done. All the people that have crowdsourced it, by the way, this isn't like, this has been paid for by people like you and me and people like our listeners, just you're just general people out there who are space enthusiasts. So that's absolutely amazing.
Do you want to hear what old Brucey Betts has had to say?
Yeah, go.
Lightsail program manager and Planetary Society chief scientist says, "We're thrilled to announce mission success for Lightsail 2. Our criteria was to demonstrate controlled star sailing in a CubeSat by changing the spacecraft's orbit using only the light pressure of the sun, something that's never been done before. I'm enormously proud of this team. It's been a long road, and we did it."
It's so super cool. If you think about
good,
everything about this mission screams cool because it's crowdfunded. It's Carl Sagan was one of the people that pushed it in the first place when he went on a daytime TV show with a little model of it, and then it went up on a Falcon Heavy.
Yeah,
Harriet came on the Interplanetary podcast and talked about it. We went saw a mock-up of it down at the Science Museum. It's just so many cool things. So many
ridiculous,
cool things.
Isn't it? And now we're here. We're seeing it evolve in real life.
And it's working. And the footage on board the CubeSat is really cool as well, as the way that you can actually watch the video of it unfurling the sails is absolutely great.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Super cool. So Jamie, the month of August is Space Habitat Month.
Ooh.
I thought this would be a good one to just introduce the concepts of space habitats.
Yes,
and I know a lot of people out there are aware of the system 5W1H. Do you know what that is?
Who isn't?
Which is sometimes called the 6 Ws, which is who, what, where, when, why, how. Now I'm assuming they're counting the W in how as the 6th W. Which is why I call it 5W1H.
It's like a boy band, but it's just me. Or 5 women, one hunk, and that I'm the hunk.
That is your kind of band, to be fair. That's really good.
Good evening, Ilfracombe. We're 5 women, 1 hunk. This song is Space Habitats.
Wasn't that the name of that charity single when you joined the Spice Girls?
It was. We raised a lot of money.
So yes, over the next few weeks, what we're going to try and do is delve into some of these who, what, where, when, why, and how questions about space habitats, space settlements, space living stuff, and it's such a massive and brilliantly interesting subject, Jamie. So let's first of all start with a breakdown of what is a space habitat or settlement. What do we actually mean by that? What's a really basic definition? What would you say was a basic definition?
Well, it's got to be permanent human habitation, not on our Earth.
So that's it, really. That's what we're going to be talking about. Lots of humans able to live somewhere else that's not Earth, but permanently as well. It can't be like the International Space Station.
Not just a week.
Is not a space habitat. I mean, because the funny thing is, we don't really have a proper space habitat at the poles, at the Antarctic, do we? So it's like, it's still fully dependent on the rest of Earth to keep it going. They couldn't do it on their own. So what about where, Jamie? Can you think of like different places where these space habitats could be?
Where, Matthew? We're talking near Earth space.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Talking your favourites, Lagrange points and other micro G orbits.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking the inner planets, which, as you know, is Mercury, Venus, and Mars.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking the asteroid belt. We're also talking the moons of outer planets, some of my favourites. Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede, and Saturn's Titan, Enceladus, and others. We're also talking the trans-Neptunian region and a BIS favourite, interstellar and intergalactic travel.
Yeah, space habitats where you're actually travelling. You know, these world ships and generation ships and stuff like that. Obviously, we talked about generation ships and world ships before, but yeah, to have them as part of like thinking about them as space settlements is really, 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 really interesting. I've been reading loads of BIS journals on that. It's super interesting. They're really into that. So yeah,
Totally
it's not just living on the surface of another planet. It could be living in space stations, and in fact, if anything, more work has been done on space habitats that aren't on other planets. So
let me ask you this, Matt. Who are we talking about?
Well, so in terms of obviously it's the human race that need to be going up and doing this, and I suppose it would be workers and stuff like that. But who's actually looking into this at the moment? Well, the British Interplanetary Society are looking into it. In fact, that will be one of the last guests that we have on, because it turns out not only are we running Space Habitat Month, it turns out that they're doing a Space Habitat special as well. So they're compiling all their space settlement stuff together. And it's Jerry has been doing that. And shout out to poor Jerry, who's had a really bad accident. So he's in a pretty poor way, poor old bean. So shout out to Jerry.
Jerry.
Get better soon. But so I'm gonna meet up with him later this month and go through all the things that he's been digging up recently with what the British Interplanetary Society have come up with, which includes stuff by Alan Bond as well. So that should be super exciting. There's also the National Space Society. We had Rod Parle on, who's very associated with that. They've been working on the American equivalent, I suppose, of the BIS, and they have a huge section on their website dedicated to space settlements. Of course, we've got old Robert Zubrin, Bobby Z at the Mars Society.
Bobby Z.
Yeah, who's very much into the kind of on-planet stuff, your Mars settlements.
Yes.
There's Asgardia as well, which, of course, is a newish kind of thing, a newish setup. And they're trying to change the laws of settlements. So they're trying to be the first space nation, which of course is going to be quite important when it comes to these settlements, whether they have laws that are based on the country of origin or they have their own laws and own societies.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
The Space Studies Institute, of course, which was set up by O'Neill, who's recently been made a little bit more famous again, thanks to Bezos's Blue Moon speech.
That's right.
And of course, Bezos and Musk, really, they're both interested in it, but they're much more interested in building the railroad rather than the town itself. So they're kind of more like your railroad people, trying to get the infrastructure in place so that we can even have an attempt at building the space settlements. But their ultimate sort of end of game is for these settlements. But they know they have to build the infrastructure first.
Absolutely.
And there's even a Space Settlement Institute, which is trying to get space colonization and settlement of outer space done quicker, sooner rather than later. So it's quite a busy space, this space settlement thing. So why would we want to do space settlements, Jamie? What the heck is the
Well, I'll tell you why. You remember our mate Stephen Hawking?
Yes, I'm aware of him. Hello, Jamie. Sorry.
Oh dear. He once said that we've got to leave the planet if we're to survive. So quite simply, the continuation of the human race, is got to have the greatest insurance policy of all time to survive and thrive. I mean, Matt, we are about halfway through the sun's life, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
So the sun's expansion.
Yeah.
Asteroid Strike could come first.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, Asteroid Strike. Yeah, if there was a major collision today, that would be the end of billions of people. But it might be very, very hard to recover from that as well. So it might be that billions of people get killed in the first bit, and then unfortunately, we would die off slowly because we just weren't prepared or didn't have the resources to be able to actually sustain human life at all. But what's amazing about
could evolution start again after that?
Well, I mean,
there's lots of interesting questions.
Well, I mean, evolution has. I mean, we've had 5 of those absolutely catastrophic events. Like one of them, one of the sort of big ones knocked out 96% of life on Earth, which was something like...
And the dinosaurs.
Yeah, so 78% of species lost. But yeah, evolution recovers, like the kind of ecosystems recover over millions and billions of years. That's not a problem. But humans almost certainly get wiped out by that kind of stuff. But what's incredible about a space settlement is it's a kind of double whammy. So say if Earth did get hit, then the surviving humans would have much more of a chance if they had help from, a Mars settlement or huge near Earth settlements that were able to sort of supply resources and actually help out fellow humans. So you were much more likely to survive on Earth as well as in these settlements if those settlements exist. So that's a really interesting
Well, let me ask you this, Matt. If all humans were wiped out, could humans evolve again?
It's extremely...
I mean, surely, potentially, yes.
Well, I think it's extremely unlikely. It's like you need the exact conditions for humans to evolve, and there's lots of other... there was lots of other different sort of sapien types, and it's just, really, really niche kind of elements that mean that comes. I mean, yeah, something will... I mean, really, the better question to ask is, would intelligent life re-evolve? Whether it's human or not, it's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, with intelligent life, you just don't know. The great filter might be that intelligent life is extremely unlikely. Conscious life might be extremely unlikely. And don't get me started on consciousness. Consciousness doesn't seem to have any kind of purpose. But anyway,
what's that book you read, Matt?
I'm reading Conscious by
Sam Harris's wife.
By Sam Harris's wife, yeah, it's very good, really good. In fact,
what's her name? We shouldn't say Sam Harris's wife.
No,
sorry about
that. Anneka Harris.
Anneka Harris. There we go. Check it out.
Yeah, Anneka Harris's Conscious is very good. Another thing about building space habitats is that you could find asteroids that were going to hit the Earth and actually intercept them, tear them apart, and use them to build a space habitat. Double whammy. Again, cool is that?
Very cool.
How and when, really, I think, is what we're going to be spending most of our time on.
It's the tricky bit.
It really is. It is the tricky bit. And the quick answer is it's really hard and not anytime soon. So I did a quick... And this is going. I'm probably going to get shouted at by a lot of people for doing this, but I did
it's fine. Go for it, Matt. When's that stopped us?
Exactly. When I did a really, really quick bit of back of the envelope maths, and I was thinking, how much would a Manhattan city block weigh? Right. So I quickly looked it up, and someone had done the maths on Reddit, so God knows how good it is. But it was roughly 462,000 tons. A city block, right? And at the moment, SpaceX, it costs $1.5 million per ton into orbit. That's just to get the stuff up. That's not how much the stuff costs to make or anything like that. It's just literally the cost of launch per ton, 1.5 million. Now, of course, that would come down if we're launching that amount. But that's pretty cheap, $1.5 million per ton. So that means that it would cost $660 billion just to launch a Manhattan-sized city block up into space. Now, actually, I was quite surprised. That's actually a lower number than I was expecting. But it's still a lot, isn't it? $660 billion. What do you think?
It is a lot, but I don't think that they're going to be making it out of bricks and mortar.
No, but there's other things to consider, isn't there? That you'd have a lot of weight in there. Remember, this city block, not only has it got to sustain life, it's got and keep everyone warm. It's got to be airtight. It's got to be radiation proof. It's got to be micrometeorite proof. It's got to have self-sustaining things in there, like, or the water needs to be recycled. So there's
Vape pens.
even though you're saving weight on bricks and mortar and cement and all that kind of stuff, I can't help feeling that the weight's going to go back up when you have to add all these other things in. So I was
true.
This is totally back of the envelope stuff, but I think it's at least an indication of how expensive just the launch of this thing would be. So the next few weeks, we'll talk about the materials that you can use for outer space settlements, the various types, the energy source. And this came up last week, wasn't it? That the energy source, I think, is really important. At the moment, we've got nuclear and solar. Really, are the two options. But we'll dig into that a little bit more. You've got
dig into it.
Life support systems, radiation protection. You've got things like self-replication and additive and 3D printing.
And here's one for you, Matt. How can you live in a small settlement? Can you be happy? No one's done it before.
Yeah, and that's connected to population size, money, currency. So yeah, locations and economics as well. I mean, it's big, isn't it? So Jamie, kick us off with something that you've read recently.
Well, I've been looking into the small settlement thing. And I read a paper about how small of a free space settlement can people be happy living in ? So they did a survey of 1,075 people to get their views on the desirability of living in a small space settlement in orbit close to Earth. And 6% said they'd be happy living on a cruise ship type of size with 500 other people, and donate 75% of their wealth to permanently living there in orbit. So it's not a huge percentage, but then if you think about, if you ask that to the globe, we're talking pretty big numbers there. But what would the minimum size settlement be? It was once believed that a minimum size was determined by the rotation rate needed to achieve 1 g of pseudo-gravity at the hull. The highest rate believed acceptable was 2 RPM, as anything higher than that would make people feel a bit queasy. But studies have shown that people can adapt pretty quickly. Matt, could you imagine if you couldn't adapt and you'd sold everything to go and live on this ship?
Yeah,
that would be pretty dark, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's really weird, because I did hear about a study that's was quite recent, where it was trying out these various rotating ideas, and
yes.
if you step it up, you can slowly step it up so people don't feel sick with this kind of, when you turn your head, it kind of pushes you to one side because of the Coriolis effect and all those kind of things. But if you slowly adjust to it, apparently, you do adjust to it. So, and it's obviously much better. I mean, there's so many things to be ironed out there in terms of how it's going to how's it going to affect your physiology? What's the lowest G that you can have where you don't get osteoporosis and all those kind of bone and muscle loss, because what you want to do is aim for the lowest one possible, so that you have to come up with the smallest amount of engineering to sort of overcome it. But that's
exactly that.
It's really interesting.
So it's very interesting stats.
A lot of interesting research on that at the moment. Yeah,
really is. Well, at least 30% of all respondents said they agree with at least one of the below. 1, they would like to live permanently in a space settlement. 2, a settlement is no greater than the size of a large cruise ship. That's enough. That's fine. 3, no more than 500 people is enough. And 4, they would be willing to devote at least 75% of their wealth. So that's at least 30% said that they would agree with at least one of those. I mean, it seems like the idea of actually living in space is the main motivation for people to go. Because I think a lot of the people that they asked were actually kind of into space enthusiasts, which isn't really fair. But would it change over time? Hard to get away from your neighbours, Matt, if they're noisy, isn't it?
Yeah, but it kind of is anyway. It is on Earth, isn't it? It's like I bought a house.
Oh, tell me about it.
You buy a house, and if your next door neighbour's noisy, you're stuck in you're in a similar sort of situation.
It's not easy.
It's not quite as bad, admittedly, and you can stretch your legs quite a little bit more. But I think that this is quite a positive study. I think in the end, their conclusion kind of pretty much agrees with that. And like that 6% who are willing for all of those things is enough, isn't it? If you that means that you can do an early space settlement, and their kind of their back of the envelope thing was that you'd have one of these like. I don't know, a space settlement, like a massive cruise ship style thing rotating out in space that was 100 meters across and would only have a mass 20 times that of the International Space Station. And it would be 500 kilometers away, so twice the height of the orbit of the International Space Station. But yeah, 20 times heavier. But that kind of means that at least we know that that's feasible to build, right? So we know that it's feasible to build. And if you did build it, people might actually go to it. That there probably is enough people that would donate their entire wealth and go live on it. That you could just about
Sounds
fill
like an old baseball film with a ghost in it.
Yeah, if we build it, they'll come.
Well, Matt, we're back to the old mental health questions. Do you think you could do it? You'd give it a shot. I know you. You're very positive.
It'd be quite good, wouldn't it? I mean, I think it would. I think the Interplanetary podcast numbers would go up if one or both of us lived on a space settlement, wouldn't it?
Definitely.
I think so. It'd be worth it just for that, Jamie. You know that my entire life is devoted to that, and
I bet the Wi-Fi up there would be amazing as well.
I don't care about the kids. Don't mind if I don't see them again, as long as the pod is doing well.
Exactly. Exactly. So listen, Matt, it's been lovely chatting to you. Have you got anything else for me?
Well, I didn't have time to write this up this week. I've been pretty busy, as you know. So, but I've got August off, like I said. So I'm going to devote a lot of time to this old thing. So we should get some pretty cool episodes. So I'm looking into the numerical constraints on the size of generation ships. And they've been using things like the Monte Carlo method to work out, how many people you can actually feed on these things and how many people will die and how many people you need to actually be on the ship. So that's really an exciting one to look at. I think that might be one of the later ones, these kind of generation ships that head out into the void.
Into the void.
But I also saw a really interesting one this week about using aerogel, that sort of really, really light stuff. Well, it turns out that you can use that as a kind of solid state greenhouse. So if you cover the Martian surface with a layer of aerogel, it would actually warm up the surface enough where you'd get liquid water. So you could have like these kind of little mini greenhouses by just sticking aerogel on the ground. So that was...
Well, that's all we need then.
Yes.
How much do we need?
Not that much, 2 to 3 centimetre thick layer. And
perfect.
And that would and it would allow visible light through for photosynthesis, but also block ultraviolet radiation and raise the temperature. So it did seem like that this was like almost miraculous use of aerogel. That was in a paper by R. Wordsworth. And again in Nature, and that's enabling Martian habitability with silica aerogel. So that's quite a cool breakthrough in itself. So I'm looking out for those sort of things. So if any of our listeners see that kind of thing, then let us know. And
please let us know.
And talking about listener responses, I cannot believe how brilliant the listener response has been to our shout out for places to crash when we do our America road trip.
Can you believe it?
We've pretty much got every city covered. It's brilliant.
This is genius. Thank you so much, peeps. We're going to take you up on it for sure.
We are going to take you up on it. So even if you thought we were joking and you were joking, we're not.
We're not joking. Please give us your sofa.
It'd be absolutely amazing.
Come hang with us.
We
want you to be in the poddy.
Imagine how cool that would be, hanging out with space podcast listeners in America. It's just going to be absolutely brilliant.
Getting them involved, having some beers with our space brothers and sisters. I think we've got to make it happen. I can see our road trip happening next year.
Yeah.
What, Matt?
Yes.
I've got to go, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I would like to say farewell to everyone and to you.
Okay.
I want to wish everyone a happy weekend and stay safe.
Thank you, all our Patreons, every single one of you. We absolutely love you. Thank you to all our listeners.
We love you.
We absolutely love you. And
Yeah.
any more information that you want, pop over to interplanetary.org.uk or putting the ace back into .space.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, Spodcads. Have a lovely day.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.